Hey everybody, Jim Ventura here. I recently did a post about seeing hummingbirds on my Instagram channel, which is Animal Speaks. And I had a lot of really interesting responses to that. A number of people really were very touched by it from another angle other than just the totem meaning of what a hummingbird is like when we see them. And for a lot of people, they experience like seeing hummingbirds when they lost a loved one in their family or a pet. And what I had described about the hummingbird representing lightness and transition and like the realm of fairy and visiting from the other world in that way really struck with a lot of people. So it made me really want to kind of share this particular story that I wrote about 5 or so years ago when I had lost my cat and I had encountered a hummingbird myself when I was going through a severe mourning process after having had to put my cat down. So I'm going to read that column that I wrote many, many years ago for food for thought for everyone. So let's kind of get to it. Again, this is from, a number of years ago. And the column is called The Right Thing to Do. I felt a sense of pride and marveled at how active and healthy my almost 16-year-old cat was in early November of 2017. She was outside playing a game all by herself. I observed her silently from the top of my stairway of my condo without her seeing me. Knowing I would interrupt her play if she caught me watching her, and she would come running up to greet me, she darted from the big tree near the base of my stairway to a large rock as if she was playing a fun made-up game of someone or something chasing her. She climbed up the tree, looking around, and scooted back down and up again. She reminded me of myself when I was a little kid. I played very well with my friends, but also enjoyed making up cool imaginary games outside on the lawn or even inside the water playground of my swimming pool. I let her play for a little bit longer and went inside to follow an impulse to look up a movie online that I remembered from my childhood called They Shoot Horses, Don't They? My research on this Sidney Poitier directed film was not what I thought it was about. It was about a crazy dance contest where the contestants pushed themselves beyond the normal limits. I wasn't sure why I needed to know this, but I know that impulses always have a purpose and I usually follow them. A month later, my healthy cat nearly stopped eating and began to lose weight rapidly. I suspected it was the early stages of renal failure, a common thing for older cats. She was also developing a stinky butt, which I first assumed was an anal gland issue. I struggled with whether I should take her to the vet or not. Other than taking her in for all of her shots more than 14 years ago, she was already fixed when she showed up at my door when she was about a year and a half old. I had not used vet services. Other than a rough bout with feline flu 2 years ago, she has never been sick. I thought I might lose her when she had the flu, but gave her colloidal silver, a natural antibiotic, and she thankfully recovered. I, for the most part, don't use Western medicine unless absolutely necessary and tend to do the same with my pets. My quandary was, do I take my sick, almost 16-year-old cat to a vet or not? It wasn't that I did not think that they might be able to help her, but the process of putting a sick old cat in a carrier in a car was something she was not used to. I wondered if doing this would be more traumatic than allowing nature to take its course since she was nearing her natural old age and cat years. What was the right thing to do here? I began to see why the movie title of They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Had come to my mind a month before this. A part of me had sensed a big decision was coming my way, and unfortunately, it might be far more than the issue of simply taking her to a vet or not. I grew up in a family where we usually had 2 dogs and often a cat. I experienced the loss of pets during my childhood. We never had to decide about something so difficult before. Our dogs and cats would get older, sick, and usually hide in the yard when they were close to passing. We had the trauma of finding them, deceased of course, but it was still a natural process. Since my cat was primarily an indoor cat, the circumstances now were different. I deliberated for a week or so and finally decided to have a mobile vet come to my home. He checked her out and said she was fairly healthy for her advanced age. She just needed soft food because she didn't have many teeth left. I considered the pros and cons of having her anal glands drained and decided on giving her pumpkin in her food to add fiber and to help her push through this naturally. A month later in January, things got worse. The stinky butt issue was not resolved, and her behavior patterns began to change rapidly. My always immaculately clean cat was pooping and vomiting every few days in the bathroom shower. Some days she would do it right on my bed, too. I had a daily routine of washing added sheets on the couch, bed, and myself when she sat in my lap. I knew the bed messes were her way of telling me something was really, really wrong. I wasn't mad at her in any way, but it was really rough for about 2 weeks. Her nearly constant diarrhea made me realize, medicine or not, she would pass very soon. I didn't need a doctor to tell me she was experiencing organ failure. I did my best to make the end good for her. She got lots of tuna mixed with wet cat food more often than usual. I figured I would let her die at home, but in early February she developed a terrible limp in her right leg. She could still scoot around with it and was eating, but maneuvering on the linoleum floor in the kitchen and the bathroom had her sliding all over the place. From a spiritual perspective, human or animal, when we have issues with our right side and legs often mean nothing to move forward to. The cat was all about being a jumper and climbing on things, and she was losing control of this part of herself. I knew she was in pain, and after a rune pull of Hagalez, which means disruption, element of power in a hailstorm, I knew clearly she was suffering, and the "they shoot horses" theme in my intuitive mind was how painfully crystal clear with her losing control of one of her legs really was. I worried about whether I was just throwing away my sick cat for a few hours. This was a short-lived fear. This was not what I was doing. A few days later, I called the vet to make the uncomfortable decision to take her in to be euthanized. It was not a good day. I struggled, but I knew it was the right thing to do. The next day, a good friend helped me to take her to the vet. I spent all the weekend with her and had very little work or other obligations perfectly orchestrated by the universe to give me the extra time with my little sweet girl. The last day was a lot of crying, giving her a million kisses, petting her skinny body in my lap, and giving her some of the turkey breast she so loved. Her final treat and her last meal, especially because she hardly ate at all anymore, before putting her in a cat carrier, bribed in by tuna juice. That is something she was truly crazy about. The support of my friends was priceless. Chi-Chi cried in the cage as we drove to the clinic because she was scared. I also felt pangs of guilt during the process. The vet said it looked like hypothyroidism, and it might be treatable. I had a brief moment with the possibility of keeping her alive. And the reality of how sick she was, the probability of medicine not likely working, her in diapers for her pooping issues, and loss of her leg inevitably on its way made me strong enough not to waver. Having to take her back to do this again in a few days or weeks would be neither good for her nor for me. I told them to proceed and gave her the shot to take her back to the other world. I was, of course, in the room petting her as she left this world. I shed quite a few tears for the few days and went through all the traditional stages of grief. One of those stages was anger at having to go through this and whether I did the right thing. I work at home, was around her a lot. This cat was part of my life in a big way. I had her for about 14 and a half years. She was my buddy, my kid, and something and someone I dearly loved. Every morning my bacon and egg sandwich was shared with her, getting a little bit of bacon. There were countless routines my dog-like loyal cat and I shared. I had many pets in my childhood that were part of my family and loved all of them. The cat I had before her was Monty. I had him for 7 years and was originally got him for the first 8 years of his life was with an ex who had him. Chi-Chi was completely mine and the best pet I had ever had. The days after her death and putting away all of her things, finding toys under the bed, triggered more sadness. 1,000 pieces of life reminding me of the loss. About a week when the grieving began to subside, a new awareness pushed through. I was lucky to have had her and gave her a great life. I was privileged to have had this experience and time with her. I began to feel just a wonderful sense of warmth and great memories of so many fun times with my little girl. I would not taint this with grief and sadness anymore. It was time to shift my view to remembering the many, many good things and gratitude. In a truly spiritual, even magical way, when I left the vet's office, after putting her down, I had to walk up the stairs knowing for the first time in many years she would not be there to happily greet me. My legs were heavy as I made that walk. When I got to the top of the stairs, a hummingbird flew by my face just 2 feet away and paused for just a second. My cat was mesmerized by hummingbirds and dreamed of catching one all of her life. Hummingbirds are considered messengers from the realm of fairy. The messages of joy, hope, lightness, and magic. The totem represents loyalty, playfulness, and persistence, all about attributes that were aspects of my cat. This hummingbird was telling me something. I had done the right thing. Not the easy thing, but the right thing. My little girl's spirit was released from her pain and she was free again like a hummingbird. There's so many different ways to feel and experience love in our lives. And this was not only one of those ways, but a really good one. Sadness and loss are aspects of this world and are never easy. We know our pets have a much shorter lifespan than we do. This is a hard pill for us to swallow. Yet the gift of them being in our lives for however long outweighs the sadness. They remind us that life is short and all about the value of loyalty and unconditional love. All right, so I wrote this in 2018. And yeah, I'll never forget her. And just as I think for anybody who got through this video with me when it comes to family members and friends and pets and people that you love, they're never gone. They may be gone physically, but their memory, the energy of it stays with us. And if we treated them with love and they were a wonderful part of our life, then, what more can we possibly ask for? And, again, I'll never forget my little Chi-Chi. She was the best little girl I've ever had so far. So, all right, thanks for joining me on this journey. Like, subscribe. Hey, share if you have a story of your own in my comment section. I love when people share, so feel free to do so, and other people benefit from your words as well. All right, till next time, cheers.